So I'm currently driving a 2002 Lincoln Continental 32 valve 4.6 liter transverse mount V8. The customer tried to change his own air filter, but he couldn't figure out how to get the big giant like barrel E150 clamp where it sits over in the corner of the driver's side headlight. It's that big round filter that goes in these. The clamp's got to be lined up a certain way. There's a tab on the bottom and there's a tab on top. Well, he thought he got it in all the way and he didn't. What ended up happening is the air filter kind of worked its way out of the box. The mass airflow is in the bottom of the housing going towards the engine. And I'm checking for codes and there are no codes, but it was just enough. It was hiccuping just enough at idle. Idle and just off idle. Just when you put it into gear and you're not even driving yet, it'd sit there and stutter and hesitate some. I'm looking around the engine, I couldn't find anything. I'm looking for codes, I can't get anything. I look over at the air filter box and I said, well, let me check the mass airflow first, and it's separated. It's sitting about 2 inches from the actual housing it's supposed to bolt into, and it was sucking in unfiltered air. And a bunch of debris got on the mass airflow. And not only that, it's too many grams per second. The computer doesn't recognize that without a restriction in line. And if I had to tell you a story to kind of give you some more context to let you know airflow does matter. It doesn't matter if it's, the vehicle knows based on a table of restriction what it's supposed to have gram-wise. There was a V6 Mustang in the past that came into the shop. One of the other mechanics, he got the Mustang because it was in a car accident and they replaced everything, got everything running right. But over 1500 RPM, it just wouldn't act right. It was too rich. It was misfiring at times, and it just wasn't acting right. And the misfires were real subtle. They weren't even real bad misfires. They're just real subtle. Like, come and go real quick. You can almost not notice it. You'd have to pick it up on a mode 6 monitor on the computer and actually watch the misfire count. Anything over 0.9 would be considered a misfire. They got to messing around with it, and they couldn't figure out what was going on. He took a block of wood and set it on top of the air filter to partially restrict the airflow, and all of a sudden the car started working fine with no misfires. Pull the air filter out of the box and look at the part number inside the box. Come to find out, the engineer that he was talking to said that's a V8 air filter box, which has a different flow ratio than the V6 box. You have a V6. You need to get a V6 box put in there because it's flowing at too high a rate and there's too much volume inside that box, so too many grams per second is showing up across that mass airflow and it's causing it to hiccup. Same thing with this. Cleaned off the mass airflow with a little bit of mass airflow spray, just a couple security screws, pulled it right out, cleaned off the little sensor, stuck it all back in. I think it was like T15 security screws. Screwed everything back in, bolted put the line and everything back on it, quit misfiring. Everything's completely fine, no stutter, no nothing. I'm out driving it right now. So this is a 2002 Lincoln Continental. Hesitation, stumble at idle, and then just off idle in gear with no throttle. Thanks, guys. Okay, so when I popped the hood on this motor, this was completely separated and this induction tubing was laying down further, and down on the bottom mass airflow sensor. Goes into the bottom of this box right here. And it was just laying there all open, so I had to pull this apart, push the little tabs on the side of the cylinders where the mass airflow is, unclip it, and then just blow some mass airflow cleaner across it, dry it out, and then put it all back together, bolt it all back down, and now the vehicle's not stumbling or anything. So that was the fix to this.